No, I'm not actually bald. I wish I was. It would save me a lot of effort. I spend probably 10 minutes every single day rerunning the razor back over my head. I didn't actually go bald. I actually shave my head every single day. It's almost a game changer for people who hate doing an hour of low intensity cardio. It's an absolute game changer. There, my girlfriend's trying to zoom in on my head so you guys can see I have stubble there that I'm not actually bald, that I actually shaved my head, but who cares at this point? I'm technically not bald, and people will say, oh, that's being defensive, you are bald. No, I'm trying to be bald. Sorry about that, had a neighbor's truck there. I'm a bald wannabe. I shave my head because, one, I think it looks better, it's easier to maintain, and I have bad psoriasis, and by shaving my head, it keeps the psoriasis off my scalp, so I don't get big lesions and stuff that bleed on it. Hair doesn't work for me on my scalp. I inject testosterone, hoping that it will make me bald. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if I'm not adopted or if my mother wasn't adopted, because her father was bald, and he started going bald in his early 30s. I'm 39 and I'm still not bald. I have a little bit of thinning hair. I'm not bald. I'm trying to be bald. I want to be bald. So I'm actually just a big fat wannabe baldy. I can't even be bald. I'm failing at it. So I have to use a razor. I'm trying, guys. I'm pinning testosterone. I'm trying to make my hair fall out, and it's not falling out. It would save me a lot of trouble shaving. So in the meantime, I just keep shaving it. So technically I have a shaved head, not a bald head. Am I actually fertile or not? So I went and bought a sperm test, which I researched a bit to see how accurate it is. And we'll check out the results here in a bit, and let's find out if I actually am capable of fathering children right now. Is the timer ready yet?
Yes, exactly now.
Exactly now. So let's take it out, the moment of truth. It is, the control line is bright, so we know it's an accurate test, and we are negative. So, get that on the camera. See, the control line is bright, and the other line is completely gone. It says even a faint line is a positive, just could be lower than normal, but still in the range. But I am negative, so technically, I guess my drug combination has pushed my sperm count too low to be actually fertile. So it's either at that level or all the way at zero, somewhere in that range.
Woohoo!
Because my psoriasis is so bad that if I don't deal with it, I shed like a snake. And when I mean shed like a snake, I'm talking it's fucking gross. If I go several days without shaving it, I can grab my skin and pull and peel, and I can peel sometimes 3-inch strips of dead skin off my scalp. That's the only reason I keep my beard this short, is the same reason I love having a long beard. Like, I would have a beard down to here if I didn't have psoriasis, but I've got to tidy my beard up frequently for the same reason. I get strips of dead skin like 2 and 3 inches long that you can just peel off like a big chunk of dandruff if I don't do it. I have suffered my entire life with inner ear issues. My eardrums blew out from infections when I was 4 years old, and I was deaf for the next 3 years. So from the age of 4 to 7, I was deaf. I got my hearing back in my right ear, and then I had surgery in my left ear when I was 13 to restore my hearing. So several of the bones, the stipes, and my eardrum in my left ear are completely artificial. I also developed Meniere's disease in my left ear later in my teens. Because most people who develop disease eventually do develop it in both ears. For me, it took about 15 years for it to go to my other ear. For just having it in one, I functioned just fine with one ear. When it went to both, it became seriously debilitating. So it's about fluid retention in your ears. I was able to function extremely well, despite having this issue, until I got into my early 30s. And then my condition exacerbated. When it spread to my right ear and it went bilateral, they got so bad that for a good period of time, I couldn't walk without getting vertigo attacks. It would drop me to the floor. Or a lot of times I would get up and try to walk across a room, and they would get so bad that I would actually vomit. And I ended up spending something like 10 months in bed because of this. And during it, I had a 3-year period there to where I was not allowed to train. I had to take 4 years away from training, somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years. Due to illness and inability to train, being fully medically disabled, and I spent 10 months of that pretty much bedridden. And as far as what I still have, yes, I still get vertigo drop attacks. I sometimes do fall down when I'm walking. I occasionally fall down the stairs of my flat, which is fine because I've got enough muscle for padding, and they're all carpeted, so it's not that bad if I end up taking a tumble down the stairs. I have about 50% hearing loss. And I have undulating hearing, so I tend to miss about every fourth word people say. So I've had to become very proficient in lip reading. I have continual tinnitus, so I have a ringing in my ears, and it's in both ears that never goes away. And I have no sense of balance medically. So I'm not supposed to be able to walk in a straight line, but as long as I can see, I can do so. But if I close my eyes and I try to stand up, I'll eventually fall down. I actually medically have no sense of balance or motion at all. So I can't feel my head turning right now, other than the muscles moving. I had 3 different streams of income that I was able to make a living doing while laying in bed sick so that I could continue to survive, because it took me 2 years of fighting in court before I won my disability at the time when I was really, really sick. I had to survive. I had to pay my bills. And the things that I realized, there are different triggers for this disease for different people, as far as vertigo attacks and your drop attacks that drop you to the floor vomiting and with the room spinning like you're drunk. They're random. There is no cause. When you think you found a cause for it, it's just a correlation you've made up in your head. Oh, maybe a certain sound plays, and that fucks me all up. Or whatever. For me, I would say the biggest triggers are stress and not getting enough sleep. That was one of the things I noticed. Or rapid change in ear pressure. Like if I'm riding in a car and somebody cracks a window, I am totally fucked. I tell my friends and family that just straight up. If you crack a window on me when I'm riding in a car going fast, it's going to be so painful for me, I'm probably just going to draw my gun and shoot you. Let's just get that clear right now. And I make that clear because, yeah, if someone's causing you intense physical pain with an action of theirs, I think shooting them might be pretty reasonable. That might stand in court. But that being said, the joking aside there, but not really. And also, since inner ears and sinuses are linked together, I've also had sinus problems my whole life. And so a lot of times when you guys hear that heavy breathing that I'm doing, it's because I struggle to breathe through my nose. And so you're hearing me re-breathe through my mouth to catch my air after talking sometimes. As most of you know, I got really, really sick. My doctors told me I couldn't train for about 4 years, and I didn't. I was sedentary for 4 years in my early 30s. I spent an entire year in bed, and when I got out of bed, I had to learn to walk again. My doctors told me I wouldn't walk without a cane ever again. They told me I'd probably never lift weights again. Well, I started lifting again. I got permission to compete in powerlifting. After the doctors told me I couldn't walk again, I wanted to squat 500 pounds raw again without reps. I've done that on camera for you guys more than once now. And I just wanted to compete again to prove my doctors wrong and to prove to myself that I could come back from a fall that hard. I'm not supposed to be able to function as well as I do according to all of my MRIs and laser balance tests and everything my doctors have done. I function about 10 times better than every single test says that I should be able to. And it's not that my medical condition has improved, it's that I have just fought back hard enough against it to overcome it and just deal with it despite having the problems. This is a disease that absolutely devastated my life at one time. And I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt on the internet, and people have even tried to create videos explaining how they're convinced I don't have it, or whatever people claim to be doctors try to post. Look, your internet diagnoses mean absolutely nothing. I've had 3 different specialists, one ENT, 2 ENTs, one of them who was the head of the ENT department at Ben Taub Hospital, and a neurologist. All 3 of them gave me separate independent diagnoses for having bilateral Meniere's disease, having it in both ears. I'm sorry, I'm going to take the word of 3 different medical specialists over any jackass or fucktard on the internet. You guys know nothing, absolutely nothing. My medical records are pretty clear on this one. I have been debilitated by it in the past. I spent 10 months pretty much in bed as a result of it. Had to take years away from training. And contrary to, again, the rumors out there, I do not receive any medical disability for it currently. I do not receive any government money at all. Like at this moment, I do not receive a single penny of any type for disability, welfare, benefits, nothing like that from any government in the world. None. 0. And I pay full taxes on everything that I make. So let's get that clear. I'm not faking some disease to get welfare. My medical diagnosis is very, very clear, and I don't receive any welfare from it. No disability currently, nothing. Now, a lot of people are going to point out, well, you've got the lactose intolerance issue, yeah, and people who are really lactose intolerant, like me, I can't drink milk. Most protein shakes give me diarrhea also. They give me gas and diarrhea as well. I'm lactose intolerant. I can't drink milk. I can't drink milk. Heart disease, unless you were born with a congenital heart defect like I was, and my heart health is still perfect in spite of that defect, which kills every single man in my family. My cardiologist is always thrilled when they see my results, even when I was on extremely high doses of steroids when younger. My blood work always came back good and my heart health was good by my cardiologist, even with the heart defect. I made a video telling you guys I was probably not going to compete in powerlifting again due to a possible medical issue, the same thing that killed my mother. I didn't go into all the details, but there's a heart issue there, and it turns out my sister and I both have the gene for that same heart issue that killed my mother at age 48. And accordingly, having looked into it, I've been advised medically that I need to avoid things like really high rep squats and possibly really high rep deadlifts. I can do a lot of higher rep upper body work, but those things I need to avoid maxes, which I do, and I need to avoid the really high rep fatiguing ones that push me to the limit. I'm also avoiding HIIT cardio. You guys have noticed I do mostly LISS cardio these days. Remember I told you guys I do an hour of LISS every day these days? That's to improve my cardiovascular health and to keep my heart stronger overall. And you guys have noticed I've changed my training in a lot of ways. I keep my intensity pretty high, but I don't hit maxes, and I keep my volume somewhat in check. The thing is, guys, this challenge of me trying to do 100 reps with like 315 on the squat could possibly kill me. It could cause my actual aorta to rupture. And even people with legitimate medical conditions, there are people who have conditions out there that will prevent them from reaching their goals, but sometimes those are just excuses. I myself carry a legal disability status according to the US government of 100% disabled. I'm not supposed to be walking without a cane. I'm not supposed to be standing without a cane. I'm not supposed to be training as heavy as I do, and you guys see what I do. I am medically forbidden from doing some of the things that I do. There are no excuses. You own your results. If you want them bad enough, you will find a way to make it happen. You guys have to remember, I am hearing impaired, and I was actually deaf for several years as a child, and even my other illness is still inner ear related that I had that put me in bed. So, and people aren't aware of that, but I read lips. I can't always hear everything that's said, even in YouTube videos, so I am actually reading lips when I watch other people's YouTube videos. So just for the aware. I have about 50% hearing loss, and I have fluctuating, undulating hearing. So I miss about every third word. So I mispronounce things just the way it is, and it's just something I've had to deal with most of my life. And as far as the cardio, because I probably need additional cardiovascular support as a result of, again, a congenital heart defect that I have. Okay, let me make this clear. I am very, very quiet about my background. I don't discuss my background, my full history. Most of you are not going to be able to find my background. There are people in this industry who have dug it up. It's not a pride thing. It just is what it is. Now, a lot of you guys know, because people have pulled my background, that I have a bit of a clandestine background. Some of that did come out when Lane and other people sued me, that yes, I have worked as a mercenary in the past abroad. I actually know something about advanced interrogation techniques. I used to do snatch and grabs and interrogate people out in the field as a contractor years ago. And I'm not going to go into the details, but yes, I have killed armed men in my life. That's nobody's business. That's my own background. And it's not something I want to brag about or talk about. It's not an internet hard-ass thing. And in my experience, Hajis can't even fight anyways. You guys suck at combat. In a country that I'm not going to discuss the name of and not going to discuss any of the people involved, I observed a fairly lightweight person who was hit at around 300 yards twice with a green tip. The first time he was hit, he was riding atop of a donkey, and he was hit in the torso, and he fell off the donkey, hit the ground. He then stood up and picked up his AK-47 that he was holding and chambered around. I don't care what the rules are. I have my CHL. I carry anywhere and everywhere I want to. And my viewpoint is, if I have it concealed and it's concealed well enough, no one knows that I'm carrying. No one knows what building I entered into. No one knows where I went with my weapon if they don't see it or see printing or something going on to where they can determine that I'm armed. Same thing, I lived in the UK for 3.5 years. I couldn't legally own a gun there. Now, I'm not saying I might not have acquired some. I'm going to just leave that one alone. The reason a lot of us who have that mentality, who you think are hiding behind guns, No, it's because we take violence seriously. A lot of people are like, you just sound trigger happy. If I was trigger happy, guys, I've been shooting since I was 6 years old. I started shooting competitively when I was 12. I'm 39 right now. I own a lot of firearms. I am always armed. If I was as trigger happy as you people seem to think I am, where's the trail of bodies all around me? Everyone knows I walk around armed, and I've told people repeatedly, if they come up and punch me, I'm going to kill them. If anyone comes up and makes a physical assault at me, then I will kill them dead at their expo. Non-negotiable. My first handgun was a revolver. It was a .357 Magnum. You know, I grew up shooting bolt action rifles and lever action rifles, other than a Ruger 1022. You know, but I got into obviously a lot of tactical weaponry early in my adulthood. You better put some thought into how you're going to respond to this and how you're going to be prepared to deal with those emotions, because I can tell you how I would deal with it, but I can also tell you that the overwhelming majority of people, they do not have the background or the skill set to successfully stalk somebody, get away with it, dust their tracks, leave no alibi, leave no real forensic evidence, and how to set it up to make it look like somebody else did it with a completely different motive. They're emotional, they attack in anger. And if that's the case, you will get caught. So, I'm going to recommend that you do not try to go after this person. I've briefly mentioned before that I am retired. However, the nature of my retirement is a private, legal matter between myself and the United States government. It's actually a sealed court document. It isn't public knowledge. It isn't publicly available records. It is something I had to reveal to the British courts here over the lawsuit stuff, but because of the nature of it, the U.S. Embassy told me that if the individual who does have a YouTube channel, who pressed charges in court against me, reveals any of the small amount of information I release, they will probably prosecute him for criminal charges inside the United States, because the little bit of details that I revealed is not supposed to be public knowledge. So he would actually be breaking the law if he even published any of it. Yes, I have a classified background. Yes, I have non-disclosure agreements. So technically anything that anyone finds about me, if they get a hold of it, it's illegal for them to have it. If they spread it around, they're guilty of espionage. So, Simon, if someone sent you any rumors of what the fuck I used to do, and you spread it around, you will go to prison for the rest of your fucking life. And so will the people who gave you the information, who got a hold of shit they're not supposed to get a hold of. No, I don't talk about my past because I used to work in intelligence. I worked in intelligence until I cracked under the stress from the PTSD, and then they terminated me and told me that if I ever talked about specifically what I did, that I would spend the rest of my life in prison. So yeah, I'm a little bit fucked up. I'm a little bit crazy. And no, I was never in the military, but that doesn't mean that I didn't serve my country. That doesn't mean that I never risked my life for my country. It doesn't mean I never killed for my country. You think killing people's fucking funny? Well, I can tell you that everyone I know who's ever killed anybody, myself included, from the moment you kill your first person, you're pretty well fucked in the head for the rest of your life. I still have nightmares about the first time I killed somebody. I still remember his brains fucking blowing out everywhere, and that shit is shit that I see in my dreams still to this day. Because I know that you can't provide security that has the same level of training that I have. And for those who don't understand, I trained at the farm at Langley. Anyone who knows what that is knows what that means. You can't provide security capable of providing the security I can provide for myself. Non-negotiable. I don't see knives as a primary self-defense weapon under any condition. I am trained in knife fighting, not like you guys are thinking of Kung Fu knife fighting, but actually real fighting with a knife. I am trained in them, but the purpose of a knife, of any training that I have, is twofold. One, to dispatch unarmed attackers, so hand-to-hand combat to give you an advantage against someone who's unarmed, and basically to kill people quietly. So to, again, kill forward scouts, kill guards, things like that, without them being able to make any sound. That's what all of my knife training is. And it's so weird that people bring this up, because do they live in some world where they think it's illegal to shoot someone just because they're unarmed? For example, let's say I'm in a parking lot putting my groceries in my car. There's security cameras so it can catch everything that's going on. So all of this is going to be seen by a grand jury, all of my physical actions. and someone starts approaching me aggressively. I turn towards them. Let me get that powder poured. But I turn towards them and I put my hand up and I say, hey, you need to back the fuck up. You're making me uncomfortable. That is a universal sign. That gets seen on camera. Me basically commanding them to stop, coming back on my heels, me taking a defensive posture and putting my hand up and saying something to them caught on the camera. What happens when they continue to advance directly at me? If you have a good lawyer, the way the law is written in Texas, and I draw my Glock 19 when they continue to advance, and I put 4 shots in their chest, blah, 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 and they're still standing, can I shoot him again? Yes, I can shoot a 5th shot. What happens if he goes down and he starts trying to reach inside his clothes or his pants and I see a bulge in there? That could be a gun. Any idea? He could be legally unarmed. He could be unarmed. I don't know that. I see a bulge in there that looks like a gun, and the camera sees him squirming and moving still. And I state to, again, the grand jury, my police testimony, that I thought he was reaching for a gun, even though he was down on the ground with 5 rounds of federal HST in him. And I shoot again. And with a good lawyer, that's still self-defense. I thought he was reaching for a gun, that I thought I saw a bulge in his clothes. He was digging through his clothes trying to get something out. He didn't stop moving. I felt my life was now in danger. Even though he was technically unarmed and wounded, if I can convince the jury that it was reasonable for me to continue to feel in danger at that point because I thought he was reaching for a gun, that's a defense against prosecution. They have to find me innocent. So this idea of, oh, you can't shoot someone because they're unarmed is absurd, it's illogical, and it's flat fucking stupid. You put your hand on your gun, hey, you need to back the fuck up. You're getting too close. If they continue, you draw. If they take one more step, you are legally justified, at least where I live, drawing, putting around. And it happens that fast. So you have 3 seconds to get your weapon out and start firing, or less. There's scenarios I'm going to run here later with some friends of mine. I've got some ex-special forces guys and things. I may run some scenarios with you guys to see later, and some of that will be interesting. You guys can see how fast some of these things happen. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on the internet saying that I claimed to be an agent of specific agencies. I do not name government agencies. That is something you will not see me ever talk about on the internet, so it's weird that people have brought that up. I've stated I worked as a mercenary and as a private military contractor. Now, what that means, you guys can draw your own conclusions. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of. It's not something I brag about. And the reason I don't brag about it is because it makes me, in a way, feel like a weak person. Because my father, who was a Green Beret and is a self-made multimillionaire, and again, people can dig that up themselves. Some people have dug that up. It's not bullshit. Trained me for that role, and he made me do it. And I wasn't strong enough as an 18, 19, 20-year-old man to stand up to my own father. I have not been a spy. I've never claimed to be a spy. I've never claimed to be a member of any government agency anywhere on earth. I grew up a hunter. I grew up a competitive shooter and a hunter. I hunted since I was 6 years old. I shot since I was 6 years old. I started doing long-distance rifle shooting in competition when I was 12 years old. So we'll call it a hunter. I was a hunter of exotic game, if that will make you guys feel better. And a pretty good chunk of the game that I hunted was a very dangerous type of game that did some sort of masonry or bricklaying because they stacked bricks of some type up. So yes, I became a man at the start of the Clinton presidency. I was scouted out for certain types of work before I even finished high school. Again, due to my family, my upbringing, connections certain members of my families might have had, along with my shooting skills. Again, I was shooting very successfully at 1,000 yards as a teenager, well before I was an adult, in actual competitions. So it isn't far-fetched that I may have been offered certain types of employment at that point. And men weren't even always paid cash, because the truth was, this was a very competitive market, a competitive environment. It was very dangerous. And there were other things worth more than money for people who wanted to stay in this line of work. Training and hardware. those things were worth their weight in gold. We got worked hard, and sometimes we got broken. But I'm one of the lucky ones, and I survived. So those of you who don't believe any of this, that's okay. I really don't give a fuck. I'm still telling my story. This is what it is. And if you don't believe me, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. I don't care. For all these guys who are veterans who are standing there still screaming about your valor, stolen valor, after what I just told you, that sounds like I'm stealing any of your valor, you know what? Fuck you, kid. And go fuck yourself. I don't really care what you think. But I will tell you this. If you decide that you're going to come confront me physically about it, you better not be a fucking pog. You better be a stone cold killer. If you come at me aggressively, voice raised, negative body language as someone who I know is a trained killer. Because I don't flinch anymore when I hear a rifle round come by my head. When I hear that whoop and that snap of that sonic boom, I haven't flinched in 20 years from that shit. I got over that a long time ago. So if you come at me, I want you to know, son, it's not going to be me who goes in the ground. I'm still here. I'm still upright and drawing air. And I can assure you I never, ever said anything about being an assassin. I didn't go into any details at all about what sort of work I did abroad or who I even worked for. Furthermore, I have no recollection, and I do not recall having ever known of anyone performing an assassination. In fact, I don't even recall what countries I may have worked in the past, what I did, or who paid me. I have purchased 4 new firearms this year that required background checks. The people note when they do my background checks that mine come back faster than just about anybody they've ever seen. And the reason for that is I actually have a file at the FBI. They keep a file on me. And because I have easy to access data for them, I get auto cleared really, really fast. It usually takes about 30 seconds for my background check to go through. My psychological records, they have full access to all my... And because I've previously had security clearance and I have a completely clean criminal record, I have never been arrested. I've never gotten a speeding ticket on record, nothing like that. For me, it's easy to pass. In fact, I qualify for class 3 weapons easily. I can pass the background checks to get suppressors, short-barreled shotguns, fully automatic weapons. I have no trouble qualifying for these things legally. So when I talk about the background checks, I'm not worried about myself. I am way in the clear. I can get anything I want, not a problem. And that's what we saw in the Paris things, the France thing, and we even saw that in the Nice thing. Some people said, well, what good would a gun do against a truck? Well, that was out on the street. I keep my car parked on the street. I keep an AR-10 rifle in the trunk of my car. I could take the engine block out with that. I have 25 rounds in the magazine of ammunition that will punch through an engine block, that will go right through a windshield, that will go right through a windshield on a guy wearing Kevlar and still go through his Kevlar on top of that. I keep that in my trunk. A lot of Americans do. A lot of Texans keep that level of firepower handy. It's perfectly legal here. Plenty of us know how to use it. Yes, I would have had the ability, had it happened going down a street where my vehicle was parked on the side of the road at an event, I could have probably stopped the attack. So, and someone else pointed out today, well, you carry a 9mm in your car, and so you wouldn't be much match against terrorists with AK-47s. Well, I suppose that depends on how much training I have. I shoot a lot, guys. I shoot a lot these days. It's not uncommon for me to shoot 300 plus rounds every single week. And I spend an hour a day making bullets no matter what. And just like I had a rumor come down to me, probably a joke that, some group 4chan had hired a street gang to kill me. They put a hit out on me. I'll be more than happy to kill those people when they show up. They might be biting off more than they can chew. Because all I do is make ammo and shoot guns all day. Not exactly the type of person you're going to try to do a drive-by on. Not going to be in your best interest. Not going to be in your best interest to try to draw down on somebody like me. But, it's cool, guys. Come on with it. When confronted in a physical conflict, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 immediately. So it's in my best interest, because I like to avoid court if possible, to completely avoid all conflicts, because I know that I'm going to shoot someone who I feel is a physical threat to me, and I'm not just going to shoot them one time. Because I'm a public figure, I get a lot of threats. I get other people who want to fight me, want to attack me. Because I put out a certain mindset out there, people don't know if I'm crazy or not. They don't know if I'm actually apeshit nuts or if I'm putting on a front or an act, but what they do know is that I have publicly stated that I will shoot anyone who attacks me. They also know that I have a lot of weapons and that I train on them. So that being said, the probability that anyone who maybe doesn't like what I do, they see me on the street, they are planning on showing up at my gym or my home and assaulting me has just dropped to zero. Nearly zero. Only the really, really crazy, determined attackers are going to do so. Any of the various YouTubers and public figures who said, oh, they're going to knock me out or hit me or whatever it is that they do, the chances that any of them are going to even consider it now has dropped to zero. They know I know how to use a weapon. They know that I'm proficient with my weaponry and that I have an aggressive mindset with them. So even if they're relatively sure I'm bluffing, they're not going to risk it. Any of the guys who Jerry Ward sicked on my girlfriend, who a lot of them probably consider, yeah, I could go to his gym and slap his girlfriend's behind and do whatever I want and nothing's going to happen. She might press charges, but it'll be so funny. I'll get it on video. Any of them who are considering that are now going to have to consider that my girlfriend is very possibly going to shoot them in the face. Nobody wants to slap some girl's ass bad enough to die for it. And then he made a public statement giving people permission on his Instagram last night to slap my girlfriend's ass. He's letting his whole audience know that it's okay to grope and sexually assault my girlfriend in front of me, and he claims that there will be no force used against him for it legally. Well, I think you might want to recheck Texas laws. My girlfriend called her lawyer this morning, and that's not going to fly well. So when she shoots one of these guys who gropes her physically, you'll be getting sued afterwards, Jerry. You might want to brush up on Texas law a little bit. I have a sticker on my car with a big Malone Lab sticker on the back of my Mercedes. It's on the driver's side. Anyone who's going to walk up behind my car and think about carjacking me, that big sticker, they're going to see it right there. That is going to cut my chances of a potential carjacker down dramatically. So someone said in a comment, Jason, you seem like the type of guy who would similarly take a whole battalion of tanks to a medieval jousting match. And the answer is yes, I would. And why? Because I can diffuse the violence that way. None of the jousters are going to want to joust against my tanks.